The night was quiet. Only the soft wind moved through the trees. Kyle was sitting alone in his small house near the edge of the colony. It was a peaceful place. Far from the big cities and loud noise, he liked this simple life. He had left Earth, years ago, hoping for peace. And here, on this small colony planet, he had found it. But something strange happened that night. A sound woke him up. It was not loud, but it was strange, like a small cry. Not a human baby, but not an animal either. Kyle sat up in his bed and listened. The sound came again. A soft, sad cry. It was coming from outside his door. He walked to the front door, still, in his sleep clothes, and opened it slowly. His eyes widened. There on his doorstep was a small bundle. Something was moving inside it. The cry came again. Kyle bent down and carefully opened the blanket. It was a baby, but not a human one. The baby had pale purple-blue skin, small soft ridges on her head, and bright golden eyes. She was shivering. The fabric around her was old and dirty. Her tiny arms reached up as she cried again. Kyle looked around. The night was empty. No one was there. He felt his heart beat faster. Who would leave a baby here, and why? Then he saw it. A small note was pinned to the edge of the blanket. It was written in broken universal script, the common language used between humans and aliens. Kyle read it slowly. Please, save her. I have no food. They hunting me. His chest tightened. He picked up the baby gently and brought her inside. She was cold. He wrapped her in a warm towel and placed her on the table. He searched his storage and found some warm milk, hoping she could drink it. To his relief, the baby sipped the milk slowly and then stopped crying. For a moment, there was peace. But Kyle's mind was full of questions. Who was the mother? What was she running from? Why here, to him? He looked at the baby again. She was now sleeping, her tiny hands curled near her face. Kyle knew he couldn't just ignore this. He wasn't someone who looked for trouble, but this baby was innocent. She needed help. He sat by her side and stayed awake the rest of the night. The next morning, the colony sun rose, lighting the quiet forest around his home. Kyle contacted the local colony officials, telling them about the baby. He expected help, or maybe even some surprise. But their answer shocked him. Alien child? Not our responsibility, one officer said coldly. If it's not human, it's not our problem. Kyle ended the call in disbelief. He looked at the sleeping baby again. Not our problem, he whispered. She's just a child. He felt angry and sad. He decided to take care of her himself, at least for now. He cleaned the baby properly, found soft fabric for clothes, and kept feeding her small amounts. She seemed to like him. Whenever he picked her up, she would stop crying. Her golden eyes followed him as if she knew he was safe. But Kyle couldn't stop thinking about the note. They are hunting me. Who was hunting her mother? And could they? Come here. That night, as the baby slept peacefully, Kyle stepped outside with a flashlight. He walked around the edge of the forest. The land was quiet, but something felt strange. He noticed some broken branches and soft footprints in the dirt. Someone had been there. He followed the trail slowly, careful not to make noise. Suddenly, he saw movement, a figure in the shadows. He stepped forward and raised his light. The figure turned and fell to the ground. It was a woman, an alien woman. Her skin was the same soft purple blue as the baby. Her body was thin, weak. Her clothes were torn and dirty. She had deep eyes filled with fear. Kyle rushed to her side. She tried to speak but coughed instead. He held her gently and whispered, "Don't worry, you're safe now." She looked at him and cried, not with loud sobs, but soft, silent tears. Kyle brought her inside and gave her water. She drank slowly, her hands shaking. "I am Saela," she whispered. After a while, her voice was soft, full of pain. He nodded. I'm Kyle. Your baby is safe. She's inside. Sayla's eyes widened. She tried to get up, but her legs were too weak. Kyle helped her stand and took her to the room. As she saw her baby sleeping, she covered her mouth and began to cry again. She is all I have, Sayla said. I had to leave her. I thought, maybe you would care. Kyle felt something in his chest. Her voice was full of love and sadness too deep for words. He waited, letting her calm down. Then she told him everything. She had come from a faraway planet that had been destroyed during a mining war. Many of her people were captured and sold as cheap labor to companies on colony planets. She was one of them. They were treated badly. No food, no rest, no care. She was pregnant when she escaped. She traveled on foot through forests, eating roots, hiding from drones, hoping to reach human land. She had heard stories. Some humans were kind. I saw your house, she said. I saw the lights. I prayed. You were one of them. Kyle was silent. He had never imagined something like this. A woman, a mother, risking everything for her child. He looked at her and said gently, You were right. You're safe now. I'll help you. Outside, the night wind returned. But now there was something more inside the small house. Hope. Kyle knew this was only the beginning. Someone might come looking. There would be questions, maybe even danger. But he didn't care. He had opened his door, and now he had opened his heart too. The morning was peaceful, but Kyle knew things were changing. His quiet life had turned into something much bigger. There was now a baby sleeping in his room, and an alien mother resting in his guest bed. Kyle walked into the kitchen and prepared some food. He made simple human meals: bread, soup, warm tea. He wasn't sure what Sayla could eat, but he wanted to try. She needed strength. When he walked into the room, Sayla was sitting up, her back against the wall, holding the baby in her arms. She looked tired but calmer. She's smiling, Kyle said softly, placing the tray on the table. Sayla nodded. She knows you helped. What's her name? Sayla touched her daughter's tiny cheek. Leary. It means light in my language. Kyle smiled. Leary? It suits her. Sayla tried to eat the soup. She winced at the taste but kept eating. Thank you, she whispered. You didn't have to help. Kyle sat on the chair beside her. Maybe not. But how could I ignore you? She didn't answer, but her eyes became glossy again. Later that day, Kyle went to the edge of the forest again. He didn't tell Sayla. He didn't want to worry her. But something had been bothering him. The trail he had followed the night before, it felt like someone else had been watching. He followed it further now, deeper into the trees. The dirt was soft, and he saw footprints, light ones, from small feet. Sayla must have walked here earlier carrying Leary, but then he saw something else, larger prints, heavy boots. They didn't match his own. His body froze. Someone else had been there. He crouched near the prints. There were marks from a small hovercraft, only the kind used by mining patrols. His stomach tightened. Could they be tracking her? He followed the trail for a short distance, but it ended near a dry stream. He saw a broken branch and what looked like a scanner lens, half buried in the dirt. Kyle picked it up. It still blinked. Red. They were scanning the area, he whispered. He quickly returned to his house. Inside, Sayla noticed his face had changed. What did you see? She asked quietly. Kyle showed her the lens. Her eyes widened. They're close, she said, holding Leary tighter. Kyle sat beside her. We can't stay here for long. I need to hide you both better. Sayla's voice was trembling. If they find me, they'll take Leary away. They'll say she doesn't belong anywhere. They don't care that she's a child. Kyle nodded. They won't find you. I'll think of something. He began to work on a plan. That evening, Kyle went to his barn. It was large, built when he first settled here. It had tools, old furniture, and space. He cleared a back section and made it more comfortable. Clean sheets, hidden space behind boxes, and a small heater. He returned to the house and asked Sayela to come with him. Carefully, they moved Leary and their things into the barn. "This will be safer," Kyle said. "If someone comes, they won't find you here." Sayela looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You protect us like we are your own." Kyle gave a small smile. "Right now, you are." Days passed. Kyle kept Sayela and Leary hidden. He bought supplies quietly, never raising questions. Sayela was slowly getting stronger. Her skin was less pale, her walk steadier. Leary grew more active, laughing whenever Kyle made funny faces. The small family began to feel real. In the evenings, Kyle would sit in the barn with them. Sayela told him stories from her world, how their cities once floated in the sky, how her people sang to the stars. "Do you miss it?" Kyle asked one night. "I do," she said. "But now, this place feels like a new beginning." But danger still hung over them. One morning, Kyle heard a strange hum in the sky. He stepped outside and saw a drone flying slowly above the trees. It wasn't large, but it was clearly scanning the area. It had a mining company symbol on its side. Kyle grabbed his communicator and jammed the local signal, hoping to block the drone's link. He ran to the barn. Sayela was already alert, holding Leary close. "I heard it," she said. "They found us." "Not yet," Kyle replied. "But they will if we don't act fast." He thought for a moment. "We need help. I can't fight them alone, but I know someone who might care." Sayela looked confused. "Who?" Kyle opened his storage unit and pulled out a dusty emergency beacon. It had been there since he moved in, untouched. It was old, but still working. "This beacon connects to a human rights patrol station in orbit," Kyle explained. "They only respond to serious alerts. Refugees, crimes, danger." Sayela's eyes widened. "But what if they don't come?" Kyle held her hand. "Then I'll fight alone." He activated the beacon. A red light blinked, then turned green. "Message sent," Kyle said quietly. Now all they could do was wait. That night was quiet, but full of fear. Kyle couldn't sleep. He stayed near the window, watching the forest. Sayela stayed in the barn, rocking Leary gently. The baby had fallen asleep, but her mother's eyes were still wide open. She whispered something in her language. A soft song, full of sorrow and hope. Kyle heard it faintly through the night air. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. It was a mother's prayer, a wish for her child's future. At dawn, Kyle saw movement in the trees. His heart raced. 3 figures in armor stepped out, mercenaries hired by the mining company. One carried a scanner. They moved slowly, searching the ground, coming closer to his home. Kyle picked up his old hunting rifle, not to shoot, but to stall. He walked out, pretending to stretch. One of the mercenaries stopped. "You live here?" he asked. "Yeah," Kyle replied, calm but alert. "What's going on?" "Company lost someone," the man said. "A worker escaped, female, dangerous." "Haven't seen anyone," Kyle lied. "Just trees and peace." They didn't look convinced. The scanner beeped. "Scan shows biosigns," one of them said. "Female, infant. Behind that barn." Kyle stepped in their way. "Just me here," he said again. "And you're not welcome without a warrant." The mercenary frowned. "You hiding someone, human?" Kyle didn't answer. Suddenly, the scanner beeped again, but this time a louder tone. Before anything else could happen, a loud sound came from the sky. A patrol ship descended fast, clean, white, marked with the symbol of the Galactic Human Rights Unit. Spotlights fell on the ground. The mercenaries stepped back, alarmed. A voice came from the ship. "This area is now under investigation. Lower your weapons." Kyle breathed out. They had come. The patrol ship hovered above the ground, its engines humming low. The bright lights from the ship made the forest glow, and the armed mercenaries quickly moved back. They had not expected interference from the Human Rights Patrol. From the ship's Side, a door opened and 2 officers stepped out. Their uniforms were clean, marked with the blue emblem of peace and justice. They walked with calm confidence. One of the officers, a tall woman with short hair, approached Kyle. "We received your emergency beacon," she said. "Who's in danger?" Kyle pointed toward the barn. "A refugee, alien mother, and her baby. They're hiding from these men." The officer nodded and turned to the mercenaries. "You are not allowed to conduct unauthorized searches on private human land. Step back." The mercenaries tried to argue, but the officer raised her badge. "This area is under protection now. You are being recorded. Any violence or threats will be reported to Galactic Command." The mercenaries exchanged looks and slowly walked away, retreating into the forest. One of them muttered, "This isn't over." But for now, the danger had passed. Kyle led the officers to the barn. Inside, Sayla was standing protectively in front of Leary. Her eyes were wide with fear. The officer smiled softly and lowered her weapon. "It's okay. You're safe now." Kyle stepped forward and gently touched Sayla's shoulder. "They're here to help." Sayla's legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees in relief. She hugged her baby close and cried softly, not out of fear, but out of hope. The patrol scanned her ID mark and confirmed she had escaped from a blacklisted mining site, a place under investigation for cruelty and illegal labor. "You will both be taken into care," the officer said. "You're protected now." But as the officers began to prepare for transport, Sayla grabbed Kyle's hand. Her voice was shaky. "I don't want to go without you." Kyle froze. "I trust you," she said. "You gave us food, shelter, love. You were the only one who opened your door." The patrol officer looked at Kyle. "You're not required to go, but if you choose, we can register you as her sponsor. You'd travel with her, help during the legal process." Kyle looked at Sayla, then at little Leary, who smiled up at him with her golden eyes. His voice was quiet but clear. "I'll go with them." The next day, they left the colony together. Sayla and Leary were placed in a safe zone aboard the patrol ship. Kyle stayed with them. He had never left his home planet since arriving, but now he didn't hesitate. Inside the ship, everything was clean and advanced. The patrol gave them food, clean clothes, and warm beds. For the first time, Sayla slept without fear. And for the first time, Kyle felt like his life had meaning beyond farming and quiet days. He wasn't just helping someone survive. He was protecting a family. Over the next few weeks, Kyle and Sayla stayed together during the hearings and interviews. The Galactic Justice Center asked questions, reviewed documents, and checked the mining company's history. The truth shocked many people. Hundreds of aliens had been used as workers without freedom. Many had died. Few had escaped. Kyle spoke during one of the hearings. "I didn't see an alien," he said. "I saw a mother. I saw someone who gave up everything for her child. She deserves a home. She deserves peace." His words spread across networks. People began to listen. Back in their small room on the ship, Sayla sat with Leary on her lap. Kyle brought her warm tea and a blanket. "I never thought I would live to see this," Sayla said. "I was so sure we would die in the forest." Kyle sat beside her. "You didn't, because you didn't give up. And now you're not alone." Leary reached toward Kyle and touched his nose. He smiled. "She's growing fast," he said. "Yes," Sayla whispered, "because she feels safe." As the days passed, Kyle and Sayla spent more time talking. She told him more stories about her planet, how her people would plant flowers that changed color with emotion, how they believed stars were old souls watching from above. Kyle shared stories of Earth, of rainy afternoons, books beside fireplaces, and hot food during winter. They laughed. Sometimes they cried, but always they listened. One evening, Sayla asked, "Why did you help me, really?" Kyle thought for a moment. "Because no one else would, and because maybe I needed something too." She tilted her head. "What did you need?" "Purpose," he said, "and now I have it." Leary began to recognize his voice. She would giggle when Kyle entered the room and reach her arms up to be held. At first, Kyle felt unsure, but soon, holding her felt natural, like she belonged. In his arms, Sayla noticed. "You would be a good father," she said softly. Kyle looked at her. "And you are already a strong mother." They both smiled. It wasn't romantic yet, but it was warm. Real. A bond was forming, not just between adult and child, but between two souls who had saved each other in different ways. Then one morning, the patrol officer returned with news. "The council has granted you refugee status. Sayla, and Kyle, you've been approved as her official sponsor." Kyle felt the weight lift from his shoulders. "You're free," the officer said. "And we've arranged a new home, a small settlement, peaceful, safe, near the hills." Sayla looked at Kyle. "Will you come with us?" He didn't even need to answer. He was already packing his things. That evening, they stood at the window of the ship, watching stars float by. "Thank you," Sayla whispered. "For everything." Kyle gently took her hand. "You don't need to thank me. We're a team now." And for the first time, Sayla leaned her head on his shoulder. Their new home was a quiet place, a small settlement on a peaceful planet, far from the noise of war and the reach of cruel companies. Green hills rolled in every direction, and a calm river flowed nearby. The sky changed colors gently during the day, soft blues and golds blending into evening pinks. Kyle stepped out of the small house the government had given them. It was simple, made of clean white stone with solar panels on the roof. A small garden had already started growing near the front. He had planted seeds just last week, and green leaves were starting to show. Inside the house, Sayla was feeding Leary with a warm smile on her face. The baby had grown stronger and more active in just a few weeks. She would now crawl toward Kyle whenever he returned from a walk or from picking fresh fruit. Her soft golden eyes always looked curious. Life was becoming normal, but peace never lasted long. One afternoon, while Kyle was stacking firewood behind the house, he heard a strange buzzing in the sky. He looked up. A drone, not a government one. It had no markings. It was black, sleek, and silent. It hovered above the trees for a few seconds, then vanished into the sky. Kyle dropped the wood and ran into the house. "Sayla," he called, "hide with Leary." Her face turned pale instantly. Without asking questions, she picked up the baby and moved quickly to the hidden space under the floor Kyle had built just in case. Kyle shut the trap door and covered it with a rug. Then he waited. An hour passed. Then a small black transport landed just beyond the garden. 3 figures stepped out, mercenaries, same kind as before. Kyle stood at the front door, his jaw tight. He didn't move. He didn't invite them in. The leader stepped forward. He was tall, with a sharp face and cold gray eyes. "Name's Torvin," the man said. "We're just here for someone who doesn't belong." Kyle crossed his arms. "This is private land. You need permission to be here." Torvin smirked. "We're not here for tea. We tracked her. She was property. She escaped. That baby too." Kyle stepped forward, blocking the path. "She's not property. She's a person, and she's under protection now." The other 2 mercenaries moved slightly, their hands near their weapons. Torvin tilted his head. "You're protecting her?" "I'm her sponsor," Kyle said. "Any action you take here is illegal." Torvin pulled out a small device and scanned the house. "Our scanner shows 2 life signs inside. Female, adult, and infant. Hiding. You think you can trick us?" Kyle remained calm. "I won't let you hurt them." The air grew tense. Just then a loud sound echoed from the sky. A government patrol ship appeared, responding to a silent alarm Kyle had triggered from inside his jacket. Torvin's smile vanished. "You called them?" Kyle didn't answer. The ship landed fast and 4 officers stepped out. One of them pointed at the mercenaries. "You are under arrest for violating protected refugee space." The mercenaries tried to argue, but the officers moved in quickly, disarming them and placing restraints on their wrists. Torvin glared at Kyle. "This isn't over." Kyle looked him in the eye. Yes, it is. After they were taken away, Kyle went inside and opened the trap door. Sayla and Leary came out, shaken, but unharmed. They came back, she whispered. They won't stop. Kyle held her hand. They're gone now. This place will be guarded, and I'm not leaving your side. Sayla looked into his eyes. Why do you keep risking everything for us? Kyle smiled gently. Because you're worth it. The next morning, a new officer arrived to speak with Kyle and Sayla. He wore silver armor with the seal of the Council of Safe Worlds. The Galactic Council has seen your case, he said. They want to offer something more. Kyle looked confused. More? You both can apply for permanent citizenship, full protection, and we can assign this land to your name forever. But there is one more option. He placed a small device on the table. You can also help others, refugees, lost travelers, people with nowhere to go. The council is looking for people with kind hearts. Sayla and Kyle looked at each other. She spoke first. We know what it feels like to have no one, Kyle nodded, and we know what it means when someone says you're safe here. The officer smiled. Then your home can be more than a home. It can be hope. Over the next weeks, the quiet house near the river became a safe place. 2 more refugee families arrived, scared and broken. Kyle helped them settle. Sayla sat with the mothers and shared stories of healing. Leary, now learning to stand, laughed with the children, her joy like sunshine. A bond had formed, not just between Kyle and Sayla, but between all of them. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Kyle and Sayla stood on the porch. Leary was asleep in Sayla's arms. Sayla looked at Kyle. You changed everything for me. Kyle looked at her softly. No, you changed me. They stood in silence, the warm wind brushing past them, full of peace. Then Sayla asked something she had never asked before. Would you stay with us forever? Not just as a helper, but as a part of us? Kyle didn't answer with words. He just took her hand, gently, and held it close. It was his answer. The days that followed felt like a new dawn for Kyle, Sayla, and little Leary. Their small settlement, once just a quiet spot near the river, was now filled with laughter, hope, and new life. The refugees who arrived found comfort in the kindness Kyle and Sayla showed. The community grew slowly but surely, like a garden after a long winter. Kyle watched Leary crawl across the soft grass one morning. Her bright eyes shone with curiosity, and her small hands reached for the flowers growing wild nearby. Sayla smiled as she followed the baby with loving eyes, her heart full of a peace she had never thought possible. But Kyle knew this peace had come from more than luck. It was from the courage of a mother who risked everything for her child, and from a man who opened his door and heart without hesitation. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the hills, a transport ship landed nearby. It was not a patrol ship this time, but a delegation from the Galactic Council. They had come with official papers and warm greetings. The leader, a calm woman with kind eyes, stepped forward. We bring good news, she said. The Council has granted full citizenship to Sayla and Leary. And Kyle, you have been recognized as a guardian and hero. Kyle felt a weight lift from his chest. For months, he had only thought about protecting Sayla and her baby. Now, he felt like part of something bigger, part of a family, part of a community that valued kindness. At a small ceremony held beneath the wide blue sky, Kyle, Sayla, and Leary stood together. The council gave them keys to a new home, a larger house near the river with space for their growing family and for others who might need help. Sayla held Leary close and whispered, We have a future now. Because you saved us. Kyle smiled, feeling the warmth of her words. And because you never gave up, he said. Days later, as Kyle unpacked boxes in the new home, Sayla came to him quietly. I want to thank you, she said. Not just for saving me and Leary, but for teaching me what hope means. Kyle put down a box and looked at her. You taught me too about courage and love. They stood close, the soft light of the afternoon surrounding them. Leary crawled between their feet, looking up with wide eyes. Kyle knelt down and lifted her into his arms. "You are my light," he said gently. Sayla smiled, tears in her eyes. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Kyle worked the land, growing food to share with the settlement. Sayla cared for Leary and helped the other mothers learn to heal their wounds, both physical and deep inside. The children played near the river, their laughter mixing with the songs. Sayla taught them, old songs from a distant world full of stars and dreams. Neighbors came often, bringing gifts and friendship. The community became stronger, a living proof that kindness could heal even the deepest wounds. One evening, as the stars began to appear, Kyle and Sayla sat outside under the sky. The air was cool, but the fire between them kept the night warm. Sayla reached for Kyle's hand. "I have a question," she said softly. Kyle smiled. "Ask anything. Will you stay with us, not just as a helper, but as my family?" Kyle looked into her eyes. His heart beat steady and sure. "I will," he said, "for as long as you'll have me." Sayla's smile was bright, full of hope and love. In the months that followed, Kyle and Sayla grew closer. Their bond deepened, not rushed, but natural. They learned from each other, finding strength in their differences and joy in their shared dreams. Leary learned to walk, then to speak words in both their languages. She was the bright center of their world, a symbol of hope born from hardship. And through it all, Kyle never forgot the night he opened his door to a small alien baby and a mother who had no food and nowhere to run. The story ended not with war or fear, but with a family bound by courage and kindness. Kyle, Sayla, and Leary stood together, ready to face the future. Because when a human opened their door and heart, it changed everything.